Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Welcome to another edition of Pull Up A Sandbag with Joe. Hi, my name is Joe O'Connor, founder and CEO of the Transformer Company, and I help veterans, veteran business owners, and those who support veterans become bigger, better, and even bolder versions of themselves. And I do this in three key areas: health, wealth, and mindset. So welcome to another edition of Pull Up A Sandbag with Joe, and I'm really pleased to be here today. And as you know, we cover in each podcast the week that was, then followed by Standing on the Shoulder of Giants, where I get to interview a giant in my books anyway, and I'm sure you'll agree, a giant in their field. And I talk with them for a while and get their feedback on their skills, wisdom, and experience to help you gain more understanding of certain aspects of everyday life, business, and top tips. And then we finish off with the health, wealth, and mindset section from me, where I'm giving some great tips on things that I've learned and picked up during my time in life, business, and the military. So we'll move on to the first section of the podcast, which is the week that was. As you know, this is the time when I give recollection of what's gone on in the previous week. Now, the fact is, this is a bit of a change on this. I've been doing this for quite a few weeks now, and so I'll go ahead with it in the normal format, and then I'm going to announce something at the end, which I think you'll be quite excited about. So, this week we witnessed Russia's commemoration of Victory Day, which was against the Nazi Germany when they defeated Nazi Germany in the Second World War. Oh, how things have changed. Since that time and the most recent events with the Ukraine and the conflict going on there, which is effectively a war, even though in Russia you are forbidden from using that term and there is a sentence and imprisonment if you use this term of war. So what's happened recently this week is the UK has been joined by the US and Canada to bring in even newer sanctions, which are tougher. And recently, Chris Weaver from the Macro Advisory Group based in Russia was giving his overview on what the sanctions have been doing to Russia, how they're affecting business and how they're affecting the morale of the population of the Russians. So he reported that it's hitting the broader community and the broader economy as well. Let's look at platinum and palladium, for instance, which is two products that they export readily, and their sales have been affected recently because they're not able to distribute them in the normal way. This means that also companies cannot import raw materials to manufacture, which is having a knock-on effect on the jobs, because companies are looking now how much longer they can keep employing their workforce when there's no income. Western brand names like McDonald's and other big brands have moved out of Russia, and McDonald's recently announced that it is no longer going to trade in Russia at all anytime in the future. That's a big change from when they actually opened their first branch of McDonald's in 1990, when there was a big celebration of the difference this would make shortly after the Berlin Wall was taken down. So what for the future? Well, Russia is depending on its £60 billion surplus that they have through the oil, gas and energy supplies that they're selling. And by the end of the year, they should have round about $200 billion surplus, which means that they can at least offer some support financial to the workforce who's going to be laid off, and that will keep the economy ticking over, or the population ticking over. Anyway, who knows what will happen after that, because Europe is reducing their reliance on energy, oil, gas from the Russians, and they're looking with the big stride forward now that are being made with sustainable energy, electric vehicles, and the like. It means that the Russians may well have bankrupted themselves, or at least affected that income that's coming in. So I'm sure you'll agree there's not much good news there. Speaking of which, Fergal Keane recently announced through the BBC and the media, and he tells his story, reporting how him being in areas of conflict, areas of war, and commentating on that via the BBC has given him PTSD and recurrences of PTSD. And in 2008, he was first diagnosed with PTSD officially. And he gave quite an account of what's happened recently. When the Ukrainian war first started, then he was out straight away to Kyiv, and then he recalled that he was having a struggle, an emotional struggle with himself, because he had told his loved ones, his family, that he wasn't going to be reporting in conflict areas anymore because of the emotional drain it had on him, and also the dangers that he could expose himself to. Quite an in-depth and emotional and open interview with him. And I remember when I was serving with the military, if you're around my age and you were serving in the 80s and 90s, then Kate Adie, whenever she was reporting, you knew that where she went, invariably some form of trouble went, and she was always at the thick of it, and hats off to her. The thing is, Bill, I take my hats off to any reporter, journalist, who is just reporting the daily news, whether that be in a conflict area or a troubled area, or just in the news arena generally. And the reason being is you saw how I started off reporting on the week that was. And it was a news report about Russia, and there wasn't much good news really, apart from the fact that Russia can at least afford to support their own Russian people and make sure at least that starvation will be averted, and hunger, and we'll wait and see on that. The point I'm making is that what I've looked at over the last 6-7 weeks, and in fact before that, because I had to start doing my research well before I started the podcast, I've recognised that the way it's affecting me isn't that great. And of course, I want to keep offering you and delivering a service to you which gives you value, which gives you information, and also gives you some inspiration, education, and motivation. And what I found is that listening to the news each day so I can report to you at the end of the week isn't the best use of my time, isn't the best way, in my opinion anyway, because I believe that it's affecting me psychologically and in a negative way, because if you do your study on the news and it's all bad, then there's got to be an effect, a side effect. The secondary effect is that it starts to get to you. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? So I'm now going to do what I recommend to my clients, and it's stop watching the news. And you might want to do that too. If you just stop watching the news and listening to the news, or at least only do it for the first 15, 20, maybe even 30 minutes, pushing it per day, first thing in the morning, because you know what? It's going to be the same. unless there's a news flash, there's breaking news, something happens that wasn't expected, it's going to be much of the same from the day, maybe the day before, and maybe a few days before if the media just keep wanting to push it out. May use slightly different grammar, may use slightly different ways of describing it, but at the end of the day, it's going to be the same news, and it's not going to be particularly good. So I'm suggesting to you now that you listen less of the news and you look more of stuff that's inspirational, educational, and motivational. So TP and TWTW, which is the week that was, in its current format, is, as Monty Python would say, dead as a dodo, ceased to exist, is no more, not going to happen, and is not good for you. So, I'm going to be reflecting on the week that was, how I can continue to deliver value to you, make sure that it's informative, it's got some great wisdom in it, some great tips, and the next podcast I will announce how that's going to be in the future. So, I do wish you well on that, and I want you to just consider how news affects you and then change your habit. Coming up next is Standing on the Shore of Giants. This is my favourite part of the podcast, and it's where I'm absolutely honoured to be able to interview so many great giants. You know, giants in their field, giants in their sector, giants in their industry, giants in the profession. People who really know what they're talking about. People who've walked the walk, talked the talk, worn the t-shirt, read the book, been there, seen it, done it, and knows what it's like to be at the forefront leading. So, coming up next is someone that I have a great deal of respect for. He's inspirational, he will educate you and motivate you to do more. So, look forward to listening to it. Your success matters. This is something I truly believe in, that your success matters, and that's what I always tell my clients. And I think it's all about changing your life, and what I did is I put my mind to this. I wanted to see and think about how best I could get a success message across to people just like you to help you get better results. And some time ago I came up with a think you can, know you can, because I think as you transform your life, once you've got to get the idea, you've got to think that you can. And with enough practice, you get to know you can too, if that makes sense. Do you get my drift? So, what I did is I wrote this book, Think You Can, Know You Can, and you can get a copy for absolutely free. No obligation. All you got to do is scan the QR code, it'll take you to the page where you can get your copy today, and it's my gift to you because I want to help you appreciate that your success matters and you can change your own life now by getting a copy of this book. Thank you and have a brilliant day. Hello and welcome to this edition of Standing on the Shoulder of Giants, and I'm so pleased to welcome Winston Wagstaff, who's really heavily involved with Transformation for Veterans, a charity, and we regularly have chats together. And Winston, the reason I wanted to talk to you again, and I think we're going to do quite a few more sessions together, podcasts, because I think you've got an absolute wealth of information to share, and your skills, knowledge, and wisdom is amazing. And speaking of which, the skills, I know that my time in the military and continuously throughout life has been involved with exercise and you know, I know you've been really involved with exercises at a high level. And So before we go on, I've noticed your lapel badges, because I'm always fascinated by the lapel badges that people wear, because they just look like something small. The fact is that the story behind them can quite often be mind-blowing. So I noticed that you've got a gold kangaroo, and then you've got something else to do with cricket. Could you just explain what they're about, please?
Well, the kangaroo is a pretty unique honour,
right?
In that it's presented by the Australian Cricket Board, in that I, as a cricket umpire and a coach, I ran across a touring side, the Australian touring side.
Right.
And they must have had they had a very busy itinerary. They've been travelling all over the place, competing, perhaps a bit too demanding. One or two of them were showing the strains and demands of that life. And because I'd been umpiring them and was the therapist, I noticed this and said, look, umpiring apart, can I help you? Can I talk to these people and offer some therapy? Which they were very thankful of. And it must have got back to headquarters, because shortly afterwards I was contacted and said, we'd like to honour you and make you a member of the Australian Cricket Board and awarded you a golden kangaroo, in thanks for the help you've been to the touring side.
Wow, that's amazing.
And as far as I know, there's not many of those issued by them.
So in cricket terms, then you were helping the enemy.
Oh yeah, absolutely, very very competitive. But they were, very sincere in the thanks and for the effort that I'd put in. And yes, they were sportsmen. We're all sportsmen, hopefully, and they certainly deserved, any commitment that I showed. But it just happened that I'd got those dual roles, both as a cricket official and as a therapist, busy in my chosen sport. Yeah.
That's fabulous. And then tell me about your other.
The other one is a recognition that I'm a high standard umpire. In that, although I come now from a minor county, Cheshire is a minor county. Originally, I'm from Yorkshire, and of course, Yorkshire is one of the senior counties. And I did county level matches at the end of my career, and was awarded by county umpiring.
Yeah, I remember
national recognition.
I remember watching as a lad the Battle of the Roses, Lancashire versus Yorkshire. Hard fought cricket game that, and I know you've been heavily involved with that. Now, through your career, we're going to come on to some of the celebrities you've worked with and coached, one in particular actually, and we'll be covering that shortly. In particular though, when you worked with different people, from children to adults and coached in sport, what have you recognised as a major benefit of being involved with sport for people?
Sport has the big benefit of tiring you out.
Yeah.
Of showing, the response to all that commitment and exercise. And the body welcomes that response. You sleep better, you eat better, you burn off a lot of the damaging chemicals, and it's a necessary part, of your makeup. So exercise, brings some really strong benefits. Physically, yes. Yeah. Psychologically, yes. In that because you tire your body out, you sleep deeper, you probably go into a slightly deeper part of your subconscious, and you're able, through that, to often resolve your own problems. You have a deeper insight into your daily problems because of that deeper sleep.
Right.
A lot of us don't have deep sleep. A lot of us are, in a very light sleep. And so really heavy exercise gives us that benefit of that deeper sleep. And that helps us physically, mentally, every possible way.
That's great.
And it's necessary.
Yep.
It's not just recommended, it's necessary to keep a healthy, functioning life.
Thank you. And we're going to be covering a little bit more about that because we're going to be talking about visualization and how that can work. Before we do, though, I'd like, just in case you're listening and wondering that you'd like to know more about Winston's pedigree and what he's done in the past and who you've coached, Winston. Mm-hmm. Right. There was someone you came across quite early in your coaching career, who went on to be a home name known throughout the UK and in fact the world. And it was in fact Kevin Keegan, who ended up playing for Liverpool, England as a captain and also coach manager. So tell me a little bit about that relationship and how you got involved with Kevin.
Well, and I say fortunate in that I value it as being fortunate that I ran across Kevin 3 times in his career. First of all, as a young footballer, youth club player, and I happened to coach and manage the area's selection team, Doncaster area youth club. Managed them, and Kevin came forward from his youth club as a prospective striker, but sadly ran across in the squad a much stronger, physically more able footballer. Kevin was very light, very small for his age, and he had gifts, certainly always had ability, but when you measure physical commitment against ability, then I'm afraid he was outdone. Right. And actually the player concerned went on to be a top professional.
Right. How old was he at this time?
It would be 13, 14.
Right, okay. So in sporting terms then, fairly late developer. And then what happened next time you had an encounter?
Next time I ran across him in a factory situation. He played for the factory team, and he couldn't make the first team of the factory squad. Right. He was young, he was only 16, 17. He was an apprentice, and he ran again across a physically more able, physically bigger, dominant player, and he was so enthusiastic, so committed, that I took him on one side and said, Kevin, you've got lots of commitment, lots of ability, but you're tiny, you're small, you're bullied off the ball. You need to build that body. You need to. How about doing a Charles Atlas course?
Charles Atlas, wow.
Charles Atlas course. And he took it to heart. Did it work? It worked beautifully. Within 3 or 4 years, he was an international player.
That's brilliant, that. And in case you're wondering what Charles Atlas is, you might want to Google it. Charles Atlas was a bodybuilder, fitness, and he had the bull worker, which was on springs, and you pushed it together. It was fabulous. I think later on there were a few lawsuits because some people got injured. The fact was, though, that at that time, the bull worker, Charles Atlas course, that was the place to be. And so he took that on board.
Over time, I developed this body, a strong body, and it was always on the slim and small side. He developed this body. Not only the body, his confidence grew, his strength, and commitment grew. He was always enthusiastic, totally enthusiastic. Always, you couldn't do enough for him. Advice and direction was always absorbed and and supported with his commitment.
Yeah.
But he needed that physical confidence and that ability to withstand. Yeah, Yorkshire football, can be a bit rough. And so he needed something to be able to combat that.
Yeah.
And he built this body, and it just changed him. As I say, psychologically as well.
Yeah.
He had confidence. He had, strength of mind and commitment.
Well, it's interesting you say about the psychological effect and the well-being and how the mental as well as the physical well-being is improved. And one of the things that I know you mention a lot and you believe in is about visualization. So what sort of processes did you discuss with Kevin?
It was always one for rehearsing and practicing, but of course you can do too much. You actually, and certainly there's a lot of footballers actually damage themselves, shorten their careers by doing too many twists and turns.
Physically.
Yeah. But if you picture what you're doing, rehearse it in your mind, visualization, you get the benefits without the disadvantages.
Yeah.
You don't wear your body out, but you rehearse things. You rehearse things with your body, picture them happening, and you can gain the benefits.
And like the visualization is what we used to say, imagine.
Imagine.
Yeah,
yes.
imagine, right. Okay. That's fantastic. So thank you so much for that. I think that we were talking about the benefits of exercise, and I think we've touched on it throughout what we've chatted about so far.
Yeah.
Anyway, just give me a little bit more of an insight into the benefits of exercise. And you were talking before earlier about the tiring yourself out to get better sleep, and it can combat light sleepers, perhaps.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
The chemicals that you're burning off, stress chemicals often, can be analysed, perspiration, and they can see the difference often in the chemical content of your perspiration. You're burning off disadvantageous chemicals, and you're gaining the benefits, I say, of being tired and deeper sleep.
Yeah.
The benefits also of sleeping deeper mentally, much deeper, and the benefits that does to the mind.
Yeah.
The tiredness level has the effect of controlling where you are in the mind, and therefore you're a much more stable person, much more balanced person, rather than sometimes whether you're very stretched, living a very demanding life, you're almost in a hysterical state. So it's a much healthier state to be in, much more balanced, much more appropriate state to work and play sport in.
Yeah, and it is interesting because I know when I'm exercising, and I'm sure you'll agree because I know you do a lot of exercise as well. When I'm exercising, I find it very difficult to be fed up. Because once I start exercising, the endorphins are released, the feel-good's released. I'm starting to think my metabolism is speeding up, and I'm starting to get invigorated, and it really builds me up. And then afterwards, I'll be tired. I'll go through a process afterwards, a routine of how to warm down, if you like. Yeah. So just warming up, then the main exercise, warm down. And it's all about the process, isn't it?
Yes, endorphin release. Very powerful chemicals in your body, and those endorphins, can give you that feel-good feeling. The natural part of your makeup, use them. Use them, and we all get them. You can get them even, as I say, from mentally. Picturing it. So what? An instance, even picturing. Something beautiful, a flower or whatever, or a natural scene, even looking out the window, you gain benefits by it. If you get that reaction, yes, you've got to practice it. It just doesn't happen like that, but it's there to be used. It's part of your human makeup. You just have to be able to get in contact with it and develop it. It's there and gain the rewards.
Yeah, that's so interesting, and the fact is that I think we forget that, and I've done some significant study into health and well-being and how the body recreates itself, because we were talking about recreation,
Yes.
And I believe the body is the greatest chemist in the world, because we can recreate. Tell me about your take on that word, recreation.
There's another slight development of that, which is nutritional.
Yeah.
Because you're creating good chemicals and good reactions. And I call it vitamin N.
Right, okay, yeah.
Vitamin N.
And that is the secret, right? Get this. You've got your vitamin A's, your B's, your C's, your D's, your E's, and all the stuff, which is good. And you read about lots, and your 5 a day, which, by the way, the 5 a day was where they were sailing around the world back in a few hundred years ago. And they just reduced the fruit and veg to a minimum. And they found that if you eat anything less than 5, you start to get scurvy and all sorts. Yeah. So 5 is the minimum. If you can eat more than 5, it's really good. Coming back to what we were saying, though, recreation and the vitamin that you're going to talk about now, because I'm really excited about this, because you get enough of this vitamin on a daily basis, and you know what? It doesn't need to cost a penny. So what is that vitamin, the secret vitamin?
Well, we forget that we're part of nature.
Yeah.
We get more and more isolated away from the natural life. And I think that's where we ought to be.
Yeah.
That's our background. That's our inheritance in many respects.
Yeah.
We forget that we're part and parcel of nature, and nature is there to do us good. So if we go back to nature, either exercising, walking nature, even visualizing nature, we gain benefits.
Yeah.
We gain, and they can be measured. They can be measured, those benefits. In a good dose of vitamin N on a regular basis, there are measurable benefits. So, back to nature.
And nature has got no hidden agenda. And if a tree could talk, if it could, and you said, how high are you going to grow Mr. or Mrs. Tree or Miss Tree? The tree wouldn't say, oh, well, just about 6 foot. I bet you, because I know we've got a few trees in the garden, the tree would say, I'm going to grow as tall as I can. And so long as you don't stop me, I'm going to keep growing, and I'm going to grow as tall as I can. So that's amazing how nature always pushes itself. And we talked about originally, we were farmers, weren't we? Yes. Most of us were farmers. In fact, we all were.
Certainly two generations ago, in many cases, my family, 1 generation ago, we were farmers.
Yeah.
Nationally, we were a nation of farmers. No longer so, but we were part and parcel of a much more natural life.
Yeah.
And I believe, and there's good science to prove it, that that is a very, very necessary part of our makeup. Yes, we've got to be in industry. Yes, we've got to work at our computer. Yes, we've got to work at the desk. But equally so, to balance that out, we need to commit ourselves to a certain amount of contact with nature, either directly or perhaps purely visually.
Yeah, because it's so easy now to just jump in the car, isn't it, and turn the engine on and then just drive off. So apart from any of the pollutants, I mean, the one thing you're not getting now is just walk around the corner or walk for a mile to where you want to go. Yes, of course, it needs a bit of forethought because it's not as quick as going in the car. Just to get out and just have that walk, a brisk pace or whatever's brisk for you, makes a big difference, doesn't it?
What are you capable of? Obviously, some people are not capable of a lot of heavy exercise, but just keep encouraging yourself to do a little bit more, within the bounds of your capability. But keep pushing, keep encouraging, and you'll gain benefits, and those benefits are measurable.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing I think we will do in the future is we'll go through a relaxation process because I think that could be really helpful. And talking about visualization, you mentioned that you may not be able to do so much physical exercise because you may have what is classed as a disability. It prevents you from doing something that someone else may be able to do with ease. So talk about visualization and how that can help, or imagining doing something.
Just looking out of the window, at a pleasant scene, and imagine yourself out there. If you're not capable of getting out there, imagine yourself out there and you're amongst it. Feel the benefits. Listen to the birds whistling and singing. Feel the breeze on your face.
Yeah.
Feel the sunshine warming your body. There are benefits there. Even in that restricted way, you're gaining. You're not losing, you're gaining benefits, and your body will recognise that.
Yeah. And for those of you who military or ex-military, I think you'll have no problem with getting up in the morning in time for the dawn chorus. Because, wow, when all those birds start singing, that's like beautiful. Just to be able to relax, just have
amongst that
a tranquil moment and just listen.
Yeah. See, we got divorced in many respects from being part of nature.
Yeah.
We're human beings, very special animals, but we're still part and parcel of nature, and nature's necessary for us. So do it. Get a dose of N on a regular basis.
Vitamin N is the big one. And when I do a lot of thinking when I'm exercising, funnily enough, because, once I'm maybe just focused, my mind can actually start to look at stuff. But also it's nice to just be able to go for a stroll. Yeah. And that's a good way to process information, isn't it?
Absolutely. I try and encourage people, if they can, if they're not capable of heavy exercise, of demanding exercise, 20 minutes stroll perhaps, three times a week.
Yeah.
That's an hour out of your life.
It's not much.
You could spend an hour of that life in doing something to gain real, measurable benefit.
And I wonder, it'd be great, wouldn't it, to measure how many more years that puts on your life.
Yeah.
So an hour a week could make a big difference to the quality of your life as you get older. I mean, because you're in great shape. And I know that's just because you have a set routine that you go through each day. And I think that it's fabulous. And I've got to be honest, right? I would say that I've exercised about 70% of my life. So there's been 30% of my life where I've not done much. And boy, have I felt it. Maybe not 30, maybe 20. Pareto's rule, 80-20. There have been times that I've gone periods in my life where I've not done much exercise, either because of work commitments or whatever. And wow, I felt it, and I thought, wow, this isn't doing me any good. And that's what's jolted me back into it. So that's why I think it's a really fascinating conversation that we're having. Because because I know you want to get the word out there as much as I do. So we have a shared belief to help people generally just enlighten their lives, make life easier, keep fitter, faster, stronger, leaner. And that doesn't mean to say being able to do a 100-metre sprint in sub 10 seconds.
Within your capabilities, but encourage yourself to push those capabilities.
Yeah.
And the benefit is what? Is sort of self-belief in that you're helping you. You're taking charge of your health, and you're helping you, and hopefully we're just giving you the tools, to be able to help yourself and run your life in a healthier and a more beneficial way.
And also by doing that, children, whether you have your own children or the children that are looking up to you or looking at you, you then become a role model.
That's a role model, an example.
A great example of how fitness can benefit, because we do have, unfortunately, a trend of obesity, and that I believe a lot of it's down to education, and not enough education in one sense of what good nutrition is all about, which is what we're going to talk about in another podcast. It's also negative education. Organisations telling you that fast food's good. Yeah. All the adverts that are on, whether they're billboards, TV, or whatever, encouraging you to have the fast food, to have the stuff that doesn't take much time. And now the fact that convenience has got to matter, whereas you could just as easily pick up a piece of fruit and eat that instead.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Knowledge and insight will get you there, but you've got to be willing to obviously help yourself, It's a DIY job.
Yeah.
Take charge of your life, take charge of your health, take charge of your physical and mental well-being. And once you've taken charge, you'll find the benefits. The benefits will come, will flow. But you've got to take that first step.
Yeah. And so what I'm getting from this, what I've got from today, is take charge of your life, take charge of your health and well-being, and take charge of what you do. Make sure that you do little and often. It doesn't need to be running a marathon straight away. You start gradually, small paces, and if you want to build up to further, that's good. Just getting a routine matters, doesn't it?
A step in the right direction rather than a step in the wrong direction.
Exactly.
And every little benefit, collected together, lots of little benefits can make a big difference.
Yeah.
And that big difference will come with a lot of those little benefits. What you eat, how you sleep, your exercise, the food that you take in, the drink, just lots of those littles, added together can make a big difference.
Thank you. And we're coming to the end of this session today. I've taken on board everything you've said, and thank you for sharing that information with us. I've got one question I'd like to ask, one final question. What is the one thing, that critical thing, the big tip that you can give that you believe makes all the difference? And not only believe it, you have the evidence, the proof from the people you've worked with, the top celebrity stars, the people who've been leaders in the sport, in industry. What's the one thing that you would give as your top tip?
I think a very necessary part is that physical exercise. You're burning off the bad stuff and encouraging the good stuff to take its place, and that's proven. and gain the benefits. Even if it's only a small step forward, it's a step forward rather than a step back.
Which makes all the difference. Thank you so much, Winston.
Pleasure.
That was brilliant. Okay, so thank you for joining us today, and Winston's going to be coming back because I've got a schedule, a series of events that I want us to cover, because there's lots of stuff that can benefit you, providing you implement it. And standing on the shoulder of giants is all about bringing in people who are really at the top of their game, whether that be processes, knowledge, skills, wisdom. And my job is to facilitate that, bring the people in that I know in my network. And of course, if you want to feature in the podcast yourself, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. And until we meet next time, remember one thing: exercise is really important. It's what makes you who you are, whether that be visualization or getting deep down and doing the physical, but the mental well-being is really important too. And until we meet the next time, have a brilliant day. Thank you. Thank you, Winston.
Thank you.
How effective do you think being a member of a network, of a group of like-minded people could be for you and your business? Well, that's exactly the reason why I founded the Transformer Business Network Group. And we meet every 2 weeks. A bunch of like-minded people, and the organisation started just after the start of the pandemic. And we've been going for over 2 years now, and my mission in life is to help guide, support business owners who are just like you get bigger, better results in business. And we do this by creating a group that's unique, simple and effective, and supporting veteran business owners and those who support veterans. If you fit into that category, then this is a great fit for you, and we'd like to hear from you. So if you follow the link now, and you can find out how to join us for a session to find out what it's all about. And until we meet, thank you and have a brilliant day. And now we move on to the health, wealth and mindset section. And you'll recall at the beginning of the podcast, I did say that I'd be introducing something new about this section of the podcast. You see, what I've discovered is that fitting in 3 subjects, 1 tip on health and 1 tip on wealth and 1 tip on mindset, can get a little bit maybe confusing, or if not confusing, maybe confusing for me actually. If not confusing, there's quite a lot of information to take in. So what I've decided is, instead of covering 3 top tips, which are inspirational, educational and motivational, I'm just going to touch on 1 and alternate them between the 3. Today we have health. Now, and then next time we'll have wealth, and the next time we'll have mindset. So we'll mix it up a little bit. And what I wanted to talk to you about today is the benefits of power napping. Now, what do we mean by this? Well, power napping is nap is an Anglo-Saxon term, and it actually means doze or slumber or sleep. Right. So that's what it means. Now, looking into it, and what I used to do in the military, and I'm sure I still do it now actually, and it's proven by science to benefit. In the military, right, between engineering tasks, because we'd have 8 on, a few hours off, 8 on, a few hours off, and we'd just keep moving from task to task. Sometimes we'd have a little bit longer time off. Most of it was during the travel time. So when we're sitting in the back of a 4-tonner or an armoured personnel carrier, an APC, that's when I first discovered the power of power napping. You know, with all the fuss and commotion going on and roaring of engine or the vibration of the engine, I could still sleep In fact, it reminds me of the Irish fellas back in the 60s who used to come across to work in the UK, and they'd hang themselves on a washing line. It was famous in Liverpool, in the doss houses. You'll notice I did say nap means doss. Well, in the doss houses, as they were called, there were many, many people put up or accommodated in one room. And the only way they could do that, you see, because they couldn't do it by letting them have beds or bunk beds because there just wasn't enough room. So what they'd do is they'd hang a washing line from one wall to the next, and then the lodgers would just hang over it, drape their arms over, and the washing line would be caught between or under their armpits on each side, and they'd just doze off, which was very interesting. Not particularly comfortable, I would imagine, because I've never done it. Mind you, I have slept in some strange places, armoured personnel carriers being one of them. So it's a great way to recap, recoup, and recreate your body. Remember, Winston was talking about recreation, right? Recreation is all about recreating your body to what it should be, so resting. Now, Winston Churchill even used a nap regularly, especially in the time of the Second World War. And he wrote that it is a wonderful way to revitalise the mind. And even lasting only 20 minutes is great. So if Winston Churchill reckons it's all right, and I certainly agree with him, and many other professionals do, well, it's got to be great, hasn't it? In fact, when you go into many chief executive offices or any high-profile individual, you will usually see some form of settee, resting place, where they'll catch a quick nap. I do it now. I still do it during the day. Just take 10, 20 minutes out to just wind down. And the reason why it's so good is I nap just once or twice a week. Just once or twice a week reduces the risk of heart disease. 1,400 people were surveyed, and 48% of them had a lower risk of heart attack, stroke, or heart failure. And it's also good for depression, good to help get over depression, because your emotions are much better. And they're much better regulated when you're not tired. So it's got to be a good thing, hasn't it? But it's also proven that it could improve your memory, productivity, and health. Your circadian rhythms which is in charge of slowing down your body, because it moves between fully awake and fully asleep over a 24-hour period. It slows our body down during the day, especially after lunch. You know that feeling after Sunday lunch when you feel really tired, or Sunday dinner, the roast, and you feel really tired. That's the circadian rhythms kicking in. And science has also proven benefits as a good night's sleep is paramount, because people show better memory, emotional benefits, better health, and better navigation. You can remember where you are, you can find out where you're going to. Have you ever been really tired and got yourself lost? And then maybe had a rest and then think, oh, I know where I am, and let's move on now. Well, that's because you've been tired. And sleep is actually a cardiovascular holiday, because it's a shutdown of your body. And it's good for the heart, going back to the circadian rhythms, where it just closes you down and lets you rest. The reason it does that is there are two forms. There's the sympathetic system and there's a non-sympathetic system in your body. Right? The sympathetic system operates during the day. Right? Operates during the day, and it is the fight or flight mechanism that's in us all. Right? From our prehistoric days, when we were running from animals or we were hunting, going after them, then it was a fight or flight. And this sympathetic system causes increased heart rate, the force of contraction and the rate of conduction It allows for increased cardiovascular output, and it supplies the body with oxygenated blood. Because, when you want to be top performing, you need your blood to be fully oxygenated. Because if it's not, you're going to get cramp and you're going to seize up. Right. Then we move into the parasympathetic system. That's at night. Because this system completely reverses the effects of the sympathetic system. Where the sympathetic system's got your fight or flight, it's got you going, it's really got you where you want to be, high performance. The sympathetic system slows it all down. It works hard to rest your body. Now, there's a contradiction in terms. It works hard to rest. Right? What it does is it totally focuses on what you need to rest. And it's brilliant at that. So, that's how that works. So that nap helps emotions because you're not sleep deprived. Now, moving on to the last part of this session, this health session, is we're going to look at NREM sleep, right? So non-rapid eye movement sleep. This encompasses 3 sleep stages, referred to as stage 1 and stage 2 and stage 3, NREM sleep. And this is where the body repairs and improves tissues. It builds bone and muscle and strengthens your immune system. As you get older, right, you sleep more lightly and get less deep sleep. I found that as well, even though I feel 26 on my side of my eyes. You can see that I'm a bit older than that. And I've recognised that I get less deep sleep. And really, I don't feel much tired because my body just functions with less sleep. However, I do power nap. So, here's how NREM sleep is made up. Well, first of all, more than 5 minutes in a day is good. A power nap, 5 minutes is good. It's better than nothing. It allows you to start rebuilding. 20 minutes, right, is classed as stage 2 really, and it's an increase in your attention, motor skills, and you can still 60 minutes stage 2 is where it's a slow wave sleep, where your creative frontal lobe comes in, the part of the brain that shuts down, and the body enters a more subdued state, including a drop in temperature, relaxed muscles, and slow breathing, and a heart rate that is slowed down too. At this all at the same time, when the brain waves show a new pattern of sleep and relaxation. 90 minutes of REM sleep, in particular, plays an important role for you, and it processes a healthy brain development. So that's it. Remember, you can get any sleep that you want as a power nap will do you good. Obviously, if you can get 20 minutes power nap, that's great. 60 minutes is like, it can be as good as a full night's sleep actually. Tests have proven, because a full night's sleep, say 8 hours of disturbed sleep, means that you're going in and out of sleep, whereas just nice controlled stage 2 or NREM sleep can be really great. So that's it for this week. I'm going to be looking next week at the health, wealth, mindset section, which will be the health for this week, wealth for next week, and then mindset. So make sure you stay tuned in. I look forward to seeing you again soon. And until then, have an absolutely brilliant day. Thank you.